Now, across Texas, the issue is...
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Greg Krugen in Houston, and this is Texas The Issue Is. Our colleague Rudy Koski is off this week.
We are about a month away from the May runoff, and Governor Greg Abbott has been crisscrossing the state campaigning for his pro-school choice candidates. Now, I sat down with the governor and asked him if any public school funding will be included next year as he tries to once again push through what he calls education savings accounts. Are you confident that you'll have the numbers to pass education savings accounts in 25?
I'm very confident. After March the 5th, we had 74 ironclad votes. You need 76 to get a bill passed. In these runoffs, we're going to win far more than just two races of candidates who support school choice. And so I feel certain school choice is going to pass this next session.
As the school year wraps up, you got some public school officials, some who are Republicans who aren't too happy with you. What do you make of this all or nothing approach so far? How long is that going to take you?
Well, so listen, we had a great program that we tried to pass in the special session that provided $6 billion more for public education, pay raises for teachers, the elimination of the STAR test, plus school choice. And all the teacher union folks and the administrators said, we don't want your money, because they wanted to maintain their monopoly. And so when we get back into a session with these new legislative members, they may not take up that deal, which was the best deal public schools could have gotten. The main focus is going to be focusing on what program is going to be best for all children in the state of Texas.
School districts are in their budget time right now. A lot of school districts will say and have been echoing that they haven't received an increase in the basic allotment for a number of years before the pandemic, and then the legislature didn't do anything. What are they supposed to do with their budgets?
Well, listen, a lot of what you just said is completely false and completely misleading, and it's a bogus talking point because the basic allotment represents only about half of the total funding that goes to schools. And the reason for that is because the full allotment of what they receive is between $12,000 and $14,000. And we as a state, as the legislature, we decide what the priorities are about what we want to fund, and that's outside of the basic allotment. So because we have found some administrators will not take the money that we gave to them to increase teacher pay, and they will use it on other priorities. And so we said, well, we're going to take charge of this, and we're going to make sure this goes to teacher pay raises.
Representative James Tallarico is a former teacher. He says the basic allotment concern is not a bogus claim.
Nothing false about it. It's just math. The last time we increased the basic allotment for our schools was 2019. I know because I was there. I was one of the authors of that bill, and they haven't gotten an increase since then. And if the governor is saying otherwise, he's lying.
Are you fearful that there won't be any public school funding in 25?
The only reason we won't get public school funding in 2025 is Greg Abbott, because the only reason we didn't get public school funding in 2023 was Greg Abbott. He held funding for our neighborhood schools hostage to try to pass his voucher scam that would have taken money out of our underfunded schools and given it to wealthy families who were already sending their kids to private schools. It was welfare for the wealthy, and Democrats and Republicans alike came together to reject that part of the bill.
I asked Governor Abbott if he thinks public education funding will be increased next year. This was his response.
I'm confident about three things. One is school choice is going to pass. Two, we will do more to fund public schools, to increase pay for teachers, to make sure that teachers, like here in Dallas, are on a pathway to a six-figure salary. But we will also make sure that reforms are in place to ensure that we are focusing on providing every child in the state with the best education to make sure Texas kids are the best educated in the United States.
All right, the governor said a lot there. My one word is unwavering. Greg, what about you?
My word is tenacious.
All right, we'll have a lot more to discuss when you join us after this break. We are back. Bill King, political columnist with Real Clear Politics, joins us. Greg, you'll be first up at bat. Greg, Governor Abbott says that he has the votes to pass this, but he says that the new members of the legislature may not have the appetite to pass what he calls a sweetheart deal when it comes to public school funding. Do you think that may happen?
Stephen, what I heard the governor say is the anti-choice forces, egged on by the teachers unions and rural superintendents, chose all-out war over a generous peace. And after the upcoming May runoffs give Greg Abbott the margin he needs, they will lose next session. Now, how generous Abbott and Dan Patrick choose to be in victory is a political calculation because they know teachers and public school parents vote. And please don't forget this. While Tallarico calls choice subsidized private education for the rich, every single poll I've seen, a majority of Texans support vouchers, including a sizable majority of urban African-American Democrats. Actual facts, gentlemen, are stubborn things. And as they say, sometimes in politics, you get the bear, and sometimes the bear gets you.
Bill, Governor Abbott told me he is not even concerned. He will have the votes to pass school choice. So does that mean now that he knows he'll get the votes, will he support a public school spending package?
There'll be some kind of spending package, undoubtedly, because you can't just say no to all these people that have been supporting him. We're not going to help your local schools, because they've got those folks as constituents. But look, when you decide to go out on the shield on the issue like the public school establishment did, there's going to be a cost exacted. Whether that's going to be some kind of financial cost or whether it's going to be something else around reforms, I don't know. But they're going to pay a price for refusing to make a deal.
Yeah, I believe the governor when he says that it might not be as big of a deal. We'll have to wait and see. Greg, do you agree with what Bill said?
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm going to play devil's advocate here. The loudest wailing and gnashing of teeth about money problems in the Houston area has come from the very prosperous Spring Branch School District. What many ISDs across the state have not done is adequately explain how they spent literally tens of billions of additional, totally discretionary federal dollars that poured in during the pandemic, only to stand up and claim they're broke or struggling less than 2 years later. Now, should a sizable chunk of the state surplus be reserved for public education? Sure. But how about giving taxpayers some proof of performance beyond the constant excuse that Texas public schools are simply incapable of improvement without lots more cash?
Bill, the governor called the basic allotment claim bogus. That aside, school districts, at least I know up here in North Texas, have been basically trying to figure out what they're going to do with their budgets. Some have reduced their budgets. Some are moving people, different personnel. What are you hearing?
Oh, I think they are strapped, but as the governor pointed out, the basic allotment is one piece of funding. There's some special allegations that some districts chose not to elect. But look, there was another $6 billion in this bill. That's what they needed to balance their budgets and do other things. And that went away when the school choice, by him tying those two things together. So look, they're going to get some more money in the next session, but he's going to make them suffer through this interim here because they wouldn't make a deal with him.
Greg, I forgot what your word was, but I think this will go to this question. Will the governor be hurt by this beef with educators, or you think he's just fine and the border is what people really are going to care about when they go to the polls?
Well, my word was tenacious. And to answer your question, Abbott's a 3-term governor who crushed his last well-funded opponent by double digits. He just delivered $18 billion worth of property tax relief and is becoming something of a national hero by relentlessly attacking President Biden's broken border policy. Now, we talked recently about the UT polling, which showed the immigration crisis dwarfs all other issues in Texas, and he's a champion there. So no, I don't think this will hurt the governor badly, in part because his approval rating is still above 50%. And he's still got unspent billions to deploy when he and his legislative allies are, frankly, good and ready to spend it.
I agree with you on that, Greg. I think Governor Abbott is in a great position for him. And hey, he just got named Time 100's, one of Time 100's most influential people. So that says a lot. That's all the time we have. Bill, thank you for joining us. To catch this episode or any of our past ones, go to our station's YouTube channels and keep the conversation going with us by hitting us up on our social media.
And join us next week when we'll have another hot button topic in the Lone Star State. Until then, be sure to let us know what you think the issue is.